And that's the greatest story ever told. We are dismissed. You don't get to be that lucky. I've missed you for 2 weeks. Now you have to have 3 sermons in one time. The greatest story ever told, but why? Why is it the greatest? Why do people commit to this time of year, every year? Why are we here today even? To celebrate Jesus Christ here on earth. Perhaps that's the question that is most relevant. Why? Why did God become one of us? I want to tell a little story here that I thought was very poignant for this particular message, and I have another one that I'm going to read at the end, and I hope you will allow that to happen, because they both were very meaningful stories that I came across years ago that is perfect for this message. This first one is a snowy Christmas Eve, and inside this warm house, a mom and the kids were all dressed to go to church, and they begged their dad to go. Every year they would beg him to come to church on Christmas Eve. And he said, "No, I don't believe in that religious garbage." And year after year, his wife would try to explain to him why Jesus came, why God sent his only son to be one of us. And it was because he was supposed to show us and teach us what we needed to do in order to have a relationship and eternal life. The man would just say, "Nonsense. It's ridiculous." And so the mother and the children left, and they went to church. And the dad looked outside and saw how blistering cold and snowy it was. And as he turned around to go warm himself by the fire, he had a glimpse of something, a movement outside, and he turned around and looked, and there were 3 young kittens walking by his window. And he said, "Oh, man, those guys are stupid. I better get out and see if I can help him." So he puts on his coat and boots and goes outside and tries to get the kittens to come in. But they were afraid of the stranger, so they took off. And he said, "Don't go away, don't run away. You're going to die out here. Come in where it's warm and you can have food and that kind of stuff." It was too late. He walked on outside and couldn't find them anywhere. And so he said, "You know, I guess I would have had to become a cat to talk to them so they would come in, because they're just being stupid. They don't understand. And they ran away. They're going to die. Nothing more I could do." So as he walked back and just ready to go into the door, he hears the church bells from a distance. He walks in and kneels in front of the fireplace, crying. You see, he finally realized what it meant, what Christmas meant, and why Jesus came. He realized because he knew that he had to become a cat in order to explain to them where safety is, where love was. That's why Jesus came. To explain to us. You see, up until Jesus came, everything was the Old Testament. And you know, we weren't saved because we're not Jewish. The Jewish people were the favored ones, the anointed ones. But Jesus came to give us the good news, to let us know and understand that it's for everyone. We all are sinners. We all are going to make mistakes. We all are going to do things that we may regret later on. But that being said, Jesus came to give us that hope. John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Do we look at the baby Jesus that way? Do we look at him like my message Friday night was, to look at what happens as he becomes, why he was here, what his job was to do to save us, you and me? That's why he was here. And we forget all of that sometimes because we're so wrapped up in all the gift stuff and all the Christmas fun things. God became one of us so that we might understand what we're supposed to do. The second reason I think this is the greatest story ever told is because everyone, not just the Jews, get to be saved. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." That's each and every one of us, no matter what we've done in our lives. We simply need to believe and understand and try to work on that relationship to become closer. The third reason that I think this is the greatest story ever told was because Jesus was God's one and only Son. Now, I only have one child. It's my son, and I would be very hard-pressed to send him somewhere that I knew was not going to turn out good for him. And I would venture to say all you parents would feel the same way, whether it's your son or daughter. You would not purposely send them somewhere to put them in harm's way. But God was going to fulfill the prophecy that was written in the Old Testament. He knew already that he was going to resurrect his son and it would be okay. We didn't know that. His resurrection from the dead would further be a confirmation of Jesus being the Son of God. It means that God the Son in love came to fulfill the meaning of his name. Today we would probably say God to the rescue. To rescue us from where we are here to our eternal life, to our chance to live in heaven. Have you accepted that? And I don't mean just on Sunday morning, but have you accepted and lived that through all your life? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to trip. You're going to do that. That happens. But when we do that, do we go back immediately and try? And finally, the last reason that I feel the birth of Jesus was the greatest story ever told was because it was a gift to us. A gift to each and every one of us. A gift of love beyond anything you could ever imagine. We share the light of Christmas time with our friends and neighbors. And we need to do that every other day of the year. We need to go outside these walls into our own little parts of the world that we are in and help people who are lost. Help them find a way. Now, I hope you won't take offense, but I'm going to read this story because to me it was one of the most important stories that I had ever heard that would go along with this message. So I apologize, I didn't memorize it, that I'm going to read it. It was around Christmas time. There was an elementary school teacher named Miss Thompson who gave away a precious gift. At the beginning of every school year, Miss Thompson would say to her students, "Boys and girls, I love you all the same. I have no favorites." How many teachers are here? We do have favorites. We just don't say it. Of course, she wasn't being completely truthful, because as we know as teachers, there's always somebody that just kind of hits a little special part with us. Teachers do have favorites, but what's worse, most teachers have students that they simply just don't care for. A young boy named Teddy, he was 11 years old, was a troublesome student that Miss Thompson simply just didn't like, and for good reason. He didn't seem interested in school at all. He wore a deadpan blank expression on his face, and his eyes were glassy and unfocused most of the time. When she spoke to Teddy, he merely shrugged his shoulders and didn't say much. His clothes were always messy, his hair was unkempt. He wasn't even an attractive boy, and he certainly wasn't likable by his classmates. Miss Thompson would mark Teddy's papers, and she got a kind of a perverse pleasure after putting great big red X's next to the wrong questions. And when she put the big F, she'd make it bigger than most of the others at the top of his paper. You know, she should have known better. Those of us who are teachers usually get a file on the children we're going to have. And if we take the time to read those files to see where the kids have been and how they've been up to the point they're coming to us, we would know. She had Teddy's personal records, and she knew more about him than she even wanted to admit. The records read as this: in first grade, Teddy shows promise with his work and attitude, but poor home situation. Second grade, Teddy could do better. Mother is seriously ill. He receives little help from home. Third grade, Teddy is a good boy, but too serious. He is slow, very slow to learn. His mother died this year. And in fourth grade, Teddy is very slow, but well behaved. His father shows little to no interest in his schoolwork. Now, since this was at Christmas time, the boys and girls in Miss Thompson's class would bring her Christmas gifts, as often happened. They piled them on her desk, and they all crowded around to watch her open them. And among the presents was one from Teddy. She was surprised that he had even brought her a gift at all. Teddy's gift was wrapped in a wrinkled old brown paper bag and held together by Scotch tape. On the paper were written the simple words, "For Miss Thompson, from Teddy." When she opened Teddy's present, out fell a gaudy rhinestone bracelet with half the stones missing and a little bottle of cheap perfume. Of course, the other boys and girls started to giggle. But at least Miss Thompson had the presence enough and the sense to silence them by immediately putting on the bracelet and dotting some of the perfume on her wrist, holding her wrist up for the other children to smell. And she says, "Doesn't it smell lovely?" And the other kids, taking their cue from the teacher, readily agreed with oohs and ahs. When school was over and the other children had left, Teddy lingered behind. He slowly came over to her desk and softly said, "Miss Thompson, You smell just like my mother, who died 2 years ago. And her bracelet looks real pretty on you too. I'm glad you like my presents, Miss Thompson. And when Teddy left the room, Miss Thompson began to cry. She got down on her knees and asked God for forgiveness for the way she had treated Teddy for all this time. And the next day that the kids came back to school, they were welcomed by a new teacher. Miss Thompson had become a different person. She was no longer just a teacher. She had become an agent of God, committed to loving her children and doing things for them that would live on long after her. She helped all the children, but especially the slow ones, and especially Teddy. She stopped by to visit Teddy and his father, to make sure Teddy was understanding all of the assignments. By the end of that school year, Teddy had showed a dramatic improvement. He had actually caught up with most of the students, and even ahead of some. All of this occurred because of a simple Christmas gift. A gift of cheap perfume and an old bracelet given in love and heart to the teacher, who ended up changing her life forever. Once the school year ended, Miss Thompson didn't hear from Teddy for a long time. Then one day she received a note that read, "Dear Miss Thompson, I wanted you to be the first to know that I will be graduating second in my class. Thanks for loving me and being such a wonderful teacher. Love, Teddy." 4 years later, she gets another note. "Dear Miss Thompson, they just told me I will be graduating first in my college class. I wanted you to be the first to know the university was not very easy, but I have had a good 4 years of learning. Thanks for loving me and being such a wonderful teacher. Love, Teddy." And 4 years after that, she gets another note. "Miss Thompson, as of today, I am Theodore Stallard, medical doctor." How about that? "I wanted you to be the first to know I am getting married next month, the 27th to be exact. I want you to come and sit where my mother would sit if she were alive. You see, you're the only family I have. My father passed away a year ago. I hope that you can come. Thanks for being so loving and a wonderful teacher. Love, Dr. Teddy Stallard." Miss Thompson went to the wedding. She sat where Teddy's mother would have sat. She deserved to be there. She had done something for Teddy that he could never forget. She devoted her time. She devoted her heart. She devoted her love to a young boy who really, really needed it. You see, out of gratitude for the precious gift of God has given us with His only Son, shouldn't we be the same? Shouldn't we be loving and giving and forgiving? This is the greatest gift and the greatest story ever told. Amen. Now we